Today's guest grew his YouTube channel to over 1,000 subscribers in under 30 days. But what's even crazier is that just a year later, he's sitting at 50,000 subscribers and built an $800,000 per year business off the back of it. He understands the YouTube algorithm, how to go viral, and more importantly, how to leverage YouTube to scale your business, just as he's done with Ty Lopez, Joel Kaplan, and more. Ladies and gentlemen, Linden Chasteen. Linden, it's great to have you on the channel.
Yes, sir.
What I want to ask is, you've mentioned this on YouTube before. How do you make 5K from every single video that you post on YouTube?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, first off, thanks for having me. And to answer that question, I make about $5,000 from every single video that I post, right? And how we do that is we essentially have a back-end offer on the back of that, right? So we have a business where we help business owners grow on YouTube and make money on YouTube, right? So what we do is we basically make very specific content for those people, add a ton of value, and then include CTAs for them to go to our landing page, for them to go to our website, and essentially start going through the sales process and until they turn into clients, right? So at the time we were posting around 2 videos a week on that business channel, and literally we posted about probably 30 videos, and every single one averaged out to be about $5,000.
Excellent, excellent. And we often hear about influencers and people who go super viral, but they end up making the mistake of not being able to monetize the attention and the audience that they built. So is this new structure of building a YouTube channel where you focus primarily on business owners? Do you think that's the future of YouTube? Do you think most people are going to make it? Or do you think it's still a niche, like it's still a small segment of all the content that's going to be on YouTube?
Yeah, I mean, the truth is like now is the best time to start. Like now is the best time to start this because as you've seen, people like William Brown, like there are so many people who are making this more kind of like raw style of content, who are making this more specific content for business owners. There will always be opportunity, especially if you come in with like a really cool niche. Like for example, your niche, right? Like with LinkedIn, like that's such an interesting niche and there's probably not a lot of competition. But if you have any sort of offer that's not like extremely niche, like let's say you have like a dropshipping offer, an SMMA offer, let's say you have a sales offer, crypto offer, whatever that may be, you got to start posting right now because YouTube is like the United States was like 300 years ago before westward expansion. And right now, people are rushing over to California and just swapping up all of this land for pennies on the dollar. They are getting it for so cheap. That land right now is worth millions and millions of dollars, but they were able to just get that because they were the first people to be there, right? Over time, real estate gets more and more expensive. And that digital real estate will become harder and harder to get. People will have to pay more money in order to capture that because they have to pay for these crazy production teams to stand out, or they have to get extremely creative compared to everyone else on the market, right? So right now is really the easiest time in history for someone to capture that more niche business market or just more niche market in general on YouTube, making videos that aren't necessarily thousands of dollars to produce on every single one. Like, right, we have our business channel where we spend basically $0 making the videos. And then we have our main channel where we probably spend $2,000 to $3,000 per video. So if you want to make more money on YouTube, now is the time to do that. Like now is the best time in history and it's only going to get harder. So that's what I would say to most people.
I like this idea of digital real estate. And when you talk about that, you're referring to the attention of viewers, correct?
Exactly. So there's a set amount of attention in the world, right? We have roughly, it might be more now, but like 8 billion people, right? Roughly 8 billion people. Let's say half of those have or maybe not half, maybe like 6 billion have internet access, right? Or who are on the internet consistently. Let's say maybe a fifth of those actually like watch YouTube consistently. And let's say like, obviously there's like a very small percentage that are business owner, but let's just keep it broad population. There is more and more people like posting content every single day. The competition is just going way up and people are posting more than they ever have, right? I think, I forgot the actual statistic on it, but I think like the amount of YouTube videos that are posted per second is like in the thousands. It's like ridiculous, right? And so you're basically competing with that and it's, the people creating content are going up and the attention is staying the same. So there's only a certain amount of attention that will go around. And as there's more creators, that attention will be split to less and less people.
And let's say we were to value this attention in the same way that you'd value a piece of real estate, right? How do you go about determining that? Right? You said that the amount of attention is scarce. It's only going to get more competitive. How do you determine, I guess, the value of an audience and importantly, or more importantly, where you should focus your attention to keep building this audience? Do you look at just the numbers, or do you look at the kind of people you attract? How do you determine that?
Yeah, good question. So yeah, we 100%, we just want to attract the people who we think are most likely to buy, right? And a really good way to actually tell this isn't off of views, right? So many people are focused on views, right? They want to be like, you know, they want 1 million views, they want 100,000 subscribers. They're going after these more vanity metrics. But the thing is, if you're like a business owner or you want to make money on YouTube, that's not what you should be. You do not want to be an influencer. Like, you don't want to be Mr. Beast. Like, maybe you do, but if you're a niche business, you don't want to be Mr. Beast unless your goal is fame. But for majority of people, the goal is not to be famous. The goal is simply to make a lot of money, right? And if you want to do that, you have to look at other metrics. So one of the most valuable metrics that we look at is actually AdSense. So what is our RPM and our CPM? So per impression, per thousand, or per cost per mil, so per 1,000 views, what we see is the higher the CPM, the higher quality the audience is, right? Because how advertising works is people will pay more money for a higher quality audience. So if you have an extremely niche organic audience that has money, is, you know, qualified for whatever you're selling, there's probably people who are running ads that are trying to pay to get in front of that audience. And if your CPM is over $10, that means you probably have a pretty dang good audience. If your CPM is over 20, that means you're probably sitting on a lot of money if you don't have a back-end business built on that. So CPM is a much better metric to look at, and you can actually see this with Alex Hormozi. Alex Hormozi used to make really broad content. He was just trying to build the biggest brand possible, right? But then what he realized is that that wasn't necessarily the best way to make money. And so he started tracking his AdSense. He started tracking his cost per mil. And he basically took his cost per mil from, I think, around $5 to over $15. And his views dropped by like probably a fourth. But he was able to get such a higher quality audience that he was able to make way more money than if he had just kept going broad. So for most people, I would track, once you're monetized, obviously you have to get there first, but I would track cost per mil. That's one of the biggest metrics to track on YouTube. But honestly, a lot of it is not even looking at data. A lot of it is simply just, what kind of content would my people want to watch? Like, that's what I think about, right? It's like, you know, I posted a video recently, how I make $5,000 from every YouTube video. There's a business owner out there who would probably click on that video. So that's how I think about it.
That's important to note, making content that is for business owners. And what I really want to understand here is, if you already have a successful business, let's say you might even be a millionaire, you're on track to becoming a millionaire, why does it make sense to then go onto YouTube if you already have a successful business and you're acquiring clients from outside of YouTube?
Yeah, 100%. So it depends on what size your business is, right? If you're below like 10K a month, then it's not like, YouTube's not probably the best way to get to 10K a month, because YouTube is a longer term game, and I won't lie to you. But if you're trying to go from 10 to 100 or 100 to $1 million a month, that is when YouTube becomes extremely valuable, and it's very hard. You can get to 100K a month without YouTube, but to get to $1 million a month without YouTube, I think is extremely difficult. It's so much easier to do that with an organic content system in place. And the reason why is because right now we're in a trust recession. So right now in 2025, trust is at an all-time low. There have been tons of studies that have shown this. And basically there are more advertisers than ever, which if you're currently running paid ads, you've probably seen your ad costs are going way, way up, and you're paying a ridiculous amount for 1,000 impressions, right? You're paying a ridiculous amount for a click, more than you ever have. So what separates those people who have that super high cost versus the people who are able to take that cost and then actually turn it into a lot more revenue is YouTube. So basically what we've seen our best clients do is, instead of running a 60-second ad to a 10-minute VSL video, that simply just doesn't work anymore, because your clients don't trust you, right? And so it's very hard to get them if they've only spent around 11, 12 minutes with you. Maybe you have a pre-call video in there, so maybe 20 minutes, right? Or you have a longer VSL, maybe 30 minutes. Like, it's very hard to get that person into a sale, and you'll actually probably end up using the sales call for a lot of education on what you do, right? They're gonna be like, okay, who are you? What do you offer? You know, they wanna know a bunch of stuff about what you do, because you're asking them to pay you 5 to 10 grand, right? Or even more. And someone doesn't just do that without knowing who you are. So you're gonna end up using the sales calls for education. Your sales guys are gonna get really, really pissed. So what a better way to actually do that is do all of that upfront education on YouTube. So here's how this funnel kind of looks. Instead of just going 60-second ad to a VSL, what you want to do is you want to go 60-second ad to a pre-call, or to a VSL on your landing page, or a pre-call video. You can do this either way. And essentially have your VSL and pre-call video as a YouTube video embedded in the website. So what happens when that happens is, that person who watches that VSL, that person who watches that pre-call video, they will get cookied by Google, and YouTube will automatically start retargeting them with your content. So it's basically like retargeting ads before a sales call for free. You don't pay for it. And it's completely organic. So that's one way. And then also, you want to, when you get that person into your email list, you want to start whenever you post a YouTube video, send it out to the email list, right? And what you can also do is, after your pre-call video, after they confirm the call on their end, you can redirect them back to the YouTube channel. You could say, hey, watch this YouTube video. Watch this YouTube video beforehand. Watch, you need to watch these content assets before you hop on the call. You can make that required. And basically, you just need them to spend a lot of time with you, because Google, have you heard of the 7-11-4 study?
I have not. No, tell me about that.
Okay. So the 7-11-4 study is basically a study done by Google, that Google saw that people's trust has been obliterated. So what they did is they did a study on how much content that someone actually needs to watch in order to trust you enough to buy from you in 2024, 2025, 2026. And what they found is that on average, someone needs to consume around 7 hours of content across 11 different touch points. So 7 hours of content, so they need to spend 7 hours with you across 11 different touch points. That means just 11 different pieces of content across 4 separate platforms. So if a person does that, if they hit that threshold, then their chance of buying and their chance of getting on the call, buying, and just paying you a lot of money goes from like extremely low to basically 4x's. It's maybe even more than that. I'd have to go reference the study again, but it's a huge increase once they get to that threshold. And basically, how you get them to that threshold is through long form YouTube videos, because on YouTube, they are spending 30 minutes with you, an hour with you. Even if you use a lot of the strategies that we do with our private clients, even sometimes 4 or 5 hours on a single video, right? So YouTube is where they will spend the most time. And then obviously you have to hit on other platforms as well. This is also part of the funnel. They read emails, right? Maybe spend 10, 15 minutes on that. They look at your Instagram reels. They spend a few minutes there. They see your ads. That's another touch point, any retargeting ads that you're running. But YouTube is where the majority of that time comes from. And you essentially need to build out a content ecosystem that after they book in a call from an ad, they go into that content and spend a ton of time with you. And that's basically like if you were to sit down just talking to your prospect, becoming their friend for 7 hours, right? But you're doing that at scale instead of one-on-one. So that's what I would say. If you do that, you're gonna make a ton of money.
Nice. And I've definitely seen since growing on YouTube that my sales calls have become easier, especially since the fact that most of the traffic that I get comes from LinkedIn and then usually gets warmed up on YouTube as well. So by the time I speak to someone on a video call, they've usually watched a few of my YouTube videos at this point. Now, I want to ask, in terms of the clients that you work with, or maybe yourself in the past, what was it like before you started doing YouTube videos and you took calls? Or let's say maybe your clients. What was it like before they started doing YouTube and then after? And how has that made their sales calls easier?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, so 100%. Like I was kind of saying is, if you don't do that, if you don't have YouTube in your sales process, a lot of your sales calls will be education sessions. Yeah. They will be like, hey, what do you do? Who are you, right? And you're not going to be able to spend as much time on the discovery stage, instilling beliefs, and basically just convincing the person to buy, right? So that's really the biggest thing. Also, if someone comes in off of a YouTube video, your closing rate instantly goes from like 20, 30% to like 50 to 80. Like we're currently seeing like on most of our sales calls, on all of our sales calls from organic, it's like at least like 75%. Now, granted, we have great closers on our team, but if we were running paid traffic, that just would not happen, right? So that's one thing, is the calls from organic close way higher because they have that relationship built with you and they trust you a lot more. So they basically come on, they know who you are, they show up knowing what you do, and they basically are pretty much ready to pay you. Like I have a lot of friends, like one of people we've helped a bit is Nick Setting, and he's absolutely crushing it. He's doing like, I think 150 cash collected a month from his YouTube channel. And basically he closed a ton of that just through sending a payment link, right? He didn't even hop on a call, didn't even go on a sales call. And that would not be possible without the YouTube channel. So that's how it kind of affects the sales process.
Now, you've often talked about how there's fast-paced and there's slow-paced videos. Do you think that in a channel's content strategy, there's a place for both, having quicker, more hyper-edited content, along with more in-depth analysis? Or do you think these sort of belong on separate channels? Or maybe should a channel focus on only one of these types of content?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on your goal, right? So for most business owners, they don't really need to do the high production content. You can if you want. Like if you want to build a channel like Alex Hormozy, where you're like a huge personal brand, or like Iman Gaji, then that's just a different strategy. That's fine. You can 100% do that. We have some clients who do that, who have gotten over 100,000 subscribers, but majority of people just want money. And if you want money, you should not try to go viral. It's just not, there's no need, right? You could just talk to your ideal prospects and get all the prospects in that space without going viral. So it really just depends. But I think for most business owners, they don't have the time, for one, to invest in like build a gigantic personal brand if that's not going to be like one of the key pillars of their business. And so it's much better for most people to just sit down on a Loom, maybe batch record out a couple videos, sit down once a month, record like a couple Loom videos. We usually try to aim for like 2 a week if we're going raw. So probably over once every 2 weeks, sit down, batch film like 4. That's a very good way to do it. Or just do it once a week, 2 videos a week. Like that's fine as well. But just lower the friction as much as possible. Sit down, plan out a little Loom for maybe 15, 20 minutes and sit down, do that. Or you can do iPad content, whiteboard content, even just raw talking head content. So that's what I would recommend for most business owners.
I want to touch on the idea of batching content. So this is obviously something that you support, the idea of making multiple videos back to back. Is there something to be said, and I hear this a lot, and I have my own opinions on this, is there something to be said about capturing the zeitgeist of what is popular? And I'll give you an example of an industry where this sort of makes sense. In the AI space, we know a few guys who run AI agencies, and they can't batch create content like months in advance because it's changing so much. There's always new tools, new ways of building out their systems that they just can't do that. Sure. Do you think that there's something to be said about like the way content is perceived if it's batched, or do you think that's not that important for the success of a video?
Good question. I don't think it matters at all. I think you can batch out content. It depends on the niche though. If you're in AI, then yeah, you probably don't want to batch out like months ahead. But if you're doing like, something like, let's say like LinkedIn outbound, like that's probably not something that's gonna like have you can include some videos that are like You know, if there's a big article about Instagram, you could be like, Instagram outbound is dead. You could take advantage of some things, but it's like, I think
It's not, by the way. It's not.
Yeah. So So like, for that niche, it would be that's one that you could easily just batch out content, right? But for AI, yeah, it's a little bit different. It just depends on the niche.
So we talk often about building a personal brand, which means that you, as the business owner, are the face of the brand. What would you say to business owners out there who understand that YouTube can be powerful for getting customers for their business, but they don't want to necessarily be the face? Do you think it's a good idea to have somebody else on the team be the face? Or how would you recommend them to go about that if they want to be sort of behind the scenes?
Yeah, it depends. If you have a business partner, that's usually the best way to do it. Because the problem is, if you have an employee or someone that you're paying to be the face, if they leave or you end up not working with that person, if you fire them, then like you're kind of screwed. Like you just put all of that work into building that YouTube channel, and now it's like the person is the YouTube channel. So unless it's a business partner, I wouldn't recommend doing that. You can build, one thing that you can do, you can build faceless brands. Faceless channels work as well. Done a couple of those, but mainly we do personal brands, but like faceless channels work as well for business owners. You just have to do it in the right way. But I'd say if you're the founder, having the founder be the face of the videos, that's the best option. And the way that you kind of make that a lot less, like with a lot less friction, is you just hire an actual content team, right? You hire a content team to script the videos, plan the videos, come up with the right ideas, tell you exactly what content that you need to make in order to crush it on YouTube. And then you just sit down and film, right? Once a week or once a month, however it may be. So that's what I would recommend, but yeah.
Excellent. And you often recommend that people make educational content so that whenever they end up speaking to these prospects, they know about the offer, they know what they can help them with, and they provide value to them before they even get on the phone. But what would you say to business owners who part of their business relies on them gatekeeping some information or not giving away all of their systems? What would you say to the business owners who are afraid of giving away their secret sauce, but they still want to attract an audience on YouTube? How should they go about that?
Yeah, great question. So we've like obviously a lot of people have that, but the thing is like we've tested across so many different channels. Like for example, one of the channels that we worked with is Joel Kaplan, right? We grew him from 5,000 subscribers to 260,000, made him over $6 million on YouTube. And before we came in, he was doing exactly that. He was gatekeeping some information. He was making content that really wasn't like out competing the market because he was withholding stuff. And what we did is we came in and we actually gave away his course for free. And we were one of the first people to do that on the market. Gave away his entire course for free and then just changed to charge for coaching, right? We changed just charging to help them achieve their goal, which for his example was building a marketing agency, right? So he taught people how to build marketing agencies, and he used to charge a lot of money for this course. It was like an 18-hour course, long course. And he made millions of dollars doing that. But what we did is we essentially gave that course away for free because there's two ways to outcompete the market on YouTube. You can either be new or you can be better. And we were basically way better than the current market because we gave away a completely free course, which no one had ever done before. And what that did is it broke the market. He grew his brand from 5,000 to 260,000 in a year. That's like ridiculous. You know, his views went from 1,000 to 50,000 on average, right? And he made over $6 million from that, right? Which was a lot more, which was more money at higher profit than he'd ever made. So that, I'm personally a believer that you should give away everything for free and just charge for coaching. It depends on the business though. Like if you are someone who sells a course, you can give away pieces of the course because no one's going to put it together. No one's going to put it all together. Everyone is going to think that the course has like something that they don't know. And it's the main thing that they're buying is the structure. They're buying their curriculum to go through that. But I'm a big proponent of always giving everything away for free. Like give all of the information away for free and then charge for help / coaching / speeding up the process. That's my belief, but I know some people might think different.
And do you think that stays the same for the people watching this who have a service-based business, whether that's like a solopreneur, freelancer, or an agency owner? Do you think that still holds true?
100%. Yeah, especially with service-based business, because the whole point of a service-based business is you're charging for a service, right? And so you're not charging for information. In a service-based business, you're charging because you provide a service. So you give away the information so someone can start seeing results on their own. And I guarantee you, if someone starts ROIing on your information, they're going to pay you to 10x that. So I think that charging for your actual service that's the whole point of a service-based business. So I would definitely do that.
Yeah, fair. So I want to switch gears here. We've been talking about business for a while now. Sure. I want to talk about more on the, I guess, networking side and other opportunities that have come from YouTube specifically. What sort of doors has YouTube and having an audience on YouTube opened for you in the past?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, so how I got my start is I was making YouTube videos and we were doing well on YouTube, but this was 4 years ago before I even had a business. So I was making videos to get views, right? And I was making good money. I was making a couple $1,000s a month off of AdSense, just getting a few 100,000 views on a good amount of videos. And with that, that opened up the door for everything that I'm doing today, right? So what happened is I was making that kind of content. I was making business content about business, doing like little business challenges. And Joel, which is, again, the client we scaled from 5K to 260, he saw one of those videos. He saw one of the videos where I tried building a marketing agency for 30 days. And that prompted him to reach out because I had more followers than him at the time. He reached out to me and he was like, hey, let's do a collab. Let's collab. And with that, I was like, sure, why not? You seem like a cool guy. Let's do it. We hopped on a call. I gave him a video idea, and first video that he did got 190,000 views, right? And then he ended up working with us, and basically I moved out, worked with him, blew up his channel, and that completely changed my life, right? Like, that completely changed my life because it taught me about business. I learned, I learned basically how business works, how to get clients, because obviously he's an expert at marketing agencies. He's kind of my mentor. He taught me everything I know. And that opportunity would not have come if it wasn't for YouTube. And even before that, there's a pretty popular YouTuber named Nate O'Brien, right? I don't know. Do you know Nate O'Brien?
No, I haven't heard of him.
Okay. Well, do you know Graham Stephan?
Not personally.
Well, but you know who he is.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So Nate O'Brien was like back in the big finance days in like 2018. Okay. Nate O'Brien was like the second kind of competitor to Graham. Okay. And he has I think 2 million subscribers. He's a big YouTuber. And basically what happened is I like Nate. I think he's a really cool guy. And what happened is way before the Joel thing, I basically reached out to him and I was like, yo, here's my YouTube channel. Would love to kind of help you out, see if there's anything that we could do together. Happy to work for free in the beginning. And just keep in mind, this is when I was first getting started. So I was offering services for free to start off. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. I'll send you over some work. Let's see how it goes. And that turned into my first ever paying client, right? That turned into my first ever paying client from YouTube. That was probably 3-4 years ago now. And that made me my first kind of money from YouTube. And it was really good. And he saw my channel. He was like, yo, this guy's actually good at YouTube. Let's hop on. And yeah, we worked together for 6 whole months. We have a great relationship today. One of my favorite people. Yeah, he's a great guy. So I think I would have never gotten any of those opportunities. And to speak at a bit of the higher levels, if you're an entrepreneur who's if you're an entrepreneur who's 7-8 figures, and even 6 figures too, the brand that you build will open up so many doors. Right now, I'm able to reach out to pretty much anyone, and I'm able to connect, right? Because I have that brand built. And same thing for example, Joel. If Joel launches a new company, it's going to be at $1 million a year instantly, at least, because he has an audience of 260,000 people, right? He's able to reach out to anyone he wants. He's able to reach out to, for example, we did a podcast with Neil Patel. Just send him an email. Be like, hey, here's my brand. Let's hop on. And Neil was like, yeah, for sure, let's do it. And that would have never happened if we hadn't have built the brand. So it just opens up so many different doors You pull up that YouTube channel and people are like, whoa, because there's two ways to connect with higher level people. And that's through if you have the same amount of money as them or you have the same amount of social status as them.
Nice. I want to touch on a few last aspects of, let's call it viewer psychology, right? And this really goes into something that I admire about the way that you make your videos. You're very keen on what goes through the viewer's mind when they're watching it. And I think that's an important skill to have with any content. If you're writing on LinkedIn, if you're writing tweets, if you're making YouTube videos, to understand like item by item, what is going through the viewer's mind. And one of the things that you mentioned in your free course is not to ask the viewers questions. Could you walk me through why do you do that? Why do you avoid asking the viewers direct questions?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's like just one of like the complicated, a little bit more complicated strategies we have. But one of the reason for that one is basically when you ask a question to someone, this is a concept in copywriting. It's from Alan Sultanic. Just got to give credit where credit is due, but it's a concept in copywriting where it's called assumptive questions. Okay. So when you write questions in copy, it's like, so why aren't you happy? Like, let's say like that, if you're doing an offer about like a mental health offer. So why aren't you happy? That's a question. You can literally just erase the question and give the answer, and it makes it flow so much better and makes so much more sense, and the person believes it more because they aren't made to work. When you ask someone a question, it makes them work. And you do not want someone to work when they're trying to relax and watch a YouTube video, right? So, for example, like let's say I had that question, are you happy? I would literally just, instead of are you happy, I would just say, you aren't happy because of X, Y, and Z. And now I'm instilling a belief inside of their brain, but I'm also making them not work, and I'm basically programming their mind without making them work for it and like having them just sit back and like get programmed with all this propaganda, right? So we're creating digital propaganda, but it's not bad propaganda. It's just like, you know, you're instilling beliefs that are actually true, right? If you have an offer that actually helps someone, you know, like for example, a belief that I instill on people is, you know, it's difficult to do YouTube on your own, and that's true, right? Most people will try YouTube for years and never see any success. They'll try YouTube for years and they'll get maybe 500, 1,000, 2,000 subscribers, but they're never going to see any like real growth or make a ton of money from it. Whereas, you know, if you have a mentor on that, it becomes a lot easier, right? And we can basically speed up your learning process by like 12 to 24 months. So like that's a belief that I would instill in someone in order to, you know, for one, make them buy from me, but it's a true belief. That's the thing. So you can use assumptive questions to make that process even smoother. Interesting.
And I like the parallels between copywriting and the way that you script out videos. Would you recommend for someone to, when they film videos, to script out each item line by line, or to have more of a general flow of the topics that they want to talk about? And does it depend on person to person, or is there one that works overall for getting your ideas across?
Yeah, it depends on a lot of factors. It's more about like personality, I would say. Okay. Like I think if you're really good and natural on camera, like we have a couple guys with sales offers, right, who help people become high ticket closers. Mm-hmm. Those people who are sales guys are very naturally extroverted. They're very good at talking. They know how to instill beliefs without writing it down because that's literally their job, right? And so with those kind of people, we just bullet point. Or if you're a busy business owner, we just bullet point because we want to save you time, right? And it also depends on the brand you're trying to build. If you're doing like the more raw style of videos, you should not be scripting. Like there's just no way that you need to be doing line by line. Definitely always script the intro. That's the one thing I am non-negotiable on. Every single video that you make, you need to script the intro. If you don't, your video it's going to get a portion of the views that it could. And then, but after that, it really depends. So yeah, if you're trying to blow up like Iman Gaji and do like a very talking head kind of style like that, I would recommend scripting. If you're just doing raw business videos, no need.
So you've talked about the marketing ecosystem before, right? Bringing people in with 4 different touch points. Do you believe that an audience can sort of cross-pollinate between platforms? Like if you have a large audience on X, do you think you can leverage that to then build up an audience on YouTube? Or do you think that the platforms are sort of agnostic of each other?
Yeah, good question. There's a little bit of overlap, but I think YouTube is the central hub. It's a lot harder to build a YouTube channel off of a Twitter account or an Instagram account, but it's a lot easier to build an Instagram account or a Twitter account off of a YouTube account. Because from YouTube is like, well, I'm biased, but I think it's the best social media platform to be big on, because people spend hours and hours with you versus just liking your post or liking your tweet, right? So I'd like to think of it in primary platforms and secondary platforms. Primary platforms are places like YouTube. If you're canceled, like Rumble, right? Like, so those are like the two kind of like main primary platforms, I would say. Potentially podcasts as well. Podcasts can work too, but yeah, that's a bit half and half. Secondary platforms are things like Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, email, all of these things, right? You can grow an audience on there, independent of the primary one, but you can't really grow the primary one from the secondary one. You have to grow the secondary from the primary, or grow the secondary on its own. So that's kind of how I think about that. But if you have a YouTube channel, yeah, you can grow all these other platforms, which is exactly what I did, right? Like, got 5,000 followers on Twitter. Don't have a crazy Instagram following, but we have like 3,000 really high quality people. That's mostly from YouTube, just from people going from the YouTube channel to the Instagram and the Twitter. Nice.
And so you've spoken with people on Iman Gaji's team, and he is very notable for his short form content strategy. Do you believe that short form content strategy, where you have multiple pages, is still effective for YouTube in 2025? Or do you think there's another better way to build up an audience on the platform?
Good question. I think short form is still good, but it depends what kind of brand you want to build. Like, if you want a short form brand, then yeah, like, go ahead and build.
And let's clarify, what do you mean by a short form brand? Are you talking about like a low attention span, like younger audience? Is that what you're implying?
Not necessarily. A short form brand is less invested. I think building a short form brand on Instagram and TikTok is very valuable. Do that if you can. And I think to do that, you have to post reels. Like, that's just like the way to grow right now. So yeah, either that or run ads. Either one is fine. But yeah, I think it's valuable, but it's just not going to be as valuable as a YouTube channel. But you can build, like, if you're not running ads, I think Instagram organic is pretty hard to make money from. But if you are running ads, Instagram, you can make millions of dollars on Instagram. Like, we have clients who do like 250 grand a month plus just from running Instagram ads, but then they use YouTube to supplement that, right? And make an extra 1 to 200K a month. So it's like, yeah, you can build short form, but just understand that short form has to go in line with other things as well.
Excellent. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is Linden Chasteen. Where can everybody find you? What's the best platform to get in touch with you or watch your content?
Yeah, for sure. I'm assuming most of you guys are business people. So just look up my name on YouTube, look up Linden Chasteen, and look for the channel that I make business content on. Not the personal one. That's a bit old. That one's, I need to get rid of that one. But yeah, look for Linden Chasteen on Instagram, or look for Linden Chasteen on YouTube. Look up my name on Instagram, Linden Chasteen. That's where you can find me. You can follow me on Twitter if you want. I'm not really active there. But IG, YouTube, those are the two. I'll see you guys there. Appreciate you having me on, bro. Seriously.
Yeah. We'll drop all those links down below. Linden, thanks for coming on the channel.